Consider this one big writers group, and you're invited. This podcast is about the art of screenwriting and writing for short films. This series dives into the minds of writers at all stages of their career to share their creative ideas, give and receive feedback on their work or the works of others. The goal is to open up a discussion about writing and share new and creative methods or approaches with one another to help each other grow.
Hey everybody, this is New Script on a Block. I am Nero Manalo, and with me is my other host from Arizona Studios, Ashley Hakes.
What's up?
And we have with us today writer, screenwriter, Josh Williams. Hey Josh, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Josh. I don't know if I'd call myself a screenwriter, but I write sometimes.
So how about Josh Williams, local filmmaker?
Filmmaker extraordinaire.
All right, sounds good. Well, Josh, can you kind of just introduce yourself? Like, what do you do and everything like that? Who are you? Why did you get into screenwriting?
I don't like this. I'm Josh. I used to work here at Arizona Studios way back in the day, before I went big time. But now I'm not big time anymore. So now
So I'm back.
I'm back.
I'm back here.
Big time didn't work out for very long.
Do you really want to say that, though?
I don't care. I don't know.
It's funny. Go for it.
It's funny. It's personable.
It's personable.
It makes me relatable. I went to film school. That's probably where I started screenwriting, like every film school attendee. Got this job at Arizona Studios right out of film school. And then after that, I went into television in the outdoor industry, making a hunting show for almost 2 years. And got tired of that, came back to Arizona, and ruined my life.
All right, cool. Thank you,
God.
Josh Williams. All right, so let's talk about your script that we have in front of you, in front of us, Bear Hunter. So can you kind of give us a little bit of context of where the script kind of came from, or if there's any story behind it? I don't want to give out too many spoilers, so, just talk about, like, why did you write this? Or
I think it came around because I was working on that show out in Texas. It was a hunting show, and I was kind of influenced by the show because we were in a lot of hunting blinds and stuff, and I've always had a penchant for sci-fi writings and films as well, so I thought it'd be cool to integrate some backwoods outdoorsiness with a little bit of sci-fi weirdness, and that's kind of how this came about.
I have a question. What is that word you said?
Penchant?
Yeah, what is that?
Like a penchant? Like
just said it weird.
yeah, I said it like a Frenchman.
Speaking of accents,
Yeah.
when we first received this script, we were tasked to kind of read ahead, just kind of familiarize ourselves with it. I have to admit that I did read it with an accent. Do you wanna? Can I read some of these parts in an accent?
Yes, you can, because I actually wrote it with people that had southern draws.
So speaking of that, let's talk about the different roles in the story. So obviously there's John, who's going to be the main character. Josh, would you be kind enough to read for that character?
Shaw.
All right, cool. John.
So there's John, there's John's girlfriend Mallory, and then there's two of John's close best friends.
There's a bartender.
True.
Yep. There's a bartender, a nurse, and an Agent Beaumont.
Okay, so Ash, could you be Mallory and let's see, the nurse and Bill?
And Bill. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So I'll be everyone else.
Everyone else.
Besides John.
Okay.
I think that's fair, right? And in terms
and then you'll
of
be the narrator and the.
Okay.
yeah, do you want to narrate?
Yeah, I'll narrate it because,
You would have the.
I understand the ebbs and flows of how the story goes.
Right.
That rhymed.
Hell yeah, it did.
You said Bill, right? You wanted me to be Bill.
I want you to be Mallory, the nurse, and Bill.
They don't have that many lines. So a little preface to all this. The script is unfinished. It's probably maybe a third of the way done, if that.
So do you anticipate this being a actual short film or feature length or?
I have the whole story mapped out in my head, but then when this whole podcast thing came up, and I was asked if I wanted to submit a script, I was like, oh yeah, I got like a little 5-page script. And then I went back and I looked at it and I was like, oh yeah, it's a 5-page script, but it's also unfinished 5-page script, and I've had the whole story mapped out in my head for a while and never actually wrote it down.
Well, maybe afterwards, maybe you can kind of give us a little bit of context about like where the story is going and stuff like that. Maybe for the audience listening in, they can get a bigger picture.
Yeah.
Of what's going on.
Yeah. I'll give you some story beats of where it's going.
Cool. Sounds good. So everyone good? Any other questions before we get started? Oh, hold on. I guess there's like the kind of guidelines I had to kind of go over. So for this show, new script on the block, comments and critiques are to help improve or rethink things, not to criticize or discourage. You can take it or leave it. It won't hurt any feelings. I want to hurt your feelings. Vice versa, we ask writers to critique themselves, so I want you to hurt your own feelings. What are things about the works that they would like to change or aren't completely in love with? We're all here to learn from each other. Cool. Ground rules.
Ground rules, so everybody listening knows.
Cool. That we're out to hurt your feelings.
To hurt your feelings.
Oh, it hurts.
It's good for you though.
Pain. All right. So everyone good? Everyone ready?
Yep.
So let's go ahead and get started, Mr. Narrator.
Let us begin. Bear Hunter, written by Josh Williams. That's me.
Page flip.
Page flip. All right. So, interior, hunting blind, forest, evening. John Baker, an early 30 outdoorsman, sits in a hunting blind completely decked out in camouflage clothing and face paint. Various snacks in a grocery bag sit next to an ice chest. His phone on top of the ice chest lights up with notifications from his girlfriend, Mallory. A text reads, "Let me know if you get one tonight. Love you." John looks at it and motions to reply when he hears a rustling sound. He pauses, then stares through the scope of his bolt-action rifle, scanning the tree line. He sees movement and trains his weapon onto a black mass rustling around out there. John, whispering, "Come out of there." The mass moves out into the open, and John takes aim and fires. Boom! A roar lets out from the beast, and it crashes through the woods, breaking branches and howling for a few beats until the sound stops abruptly. John looks up from his scope, his brows furrow. He ejects around and chambers another one and looks through the scope once more. He sees nothing. He hears nothing. Exterior hunting blind, forest, continuous. John exits the blind and treks towards the beast's path, his rifle at the ready. Exterior forest, same. John approaches where he shot the animal and finds a blood trail on the floor. He follows it. Passing broken saplings and gnarled plants, the trail snakes along for a few hundred feet before it seems to disappear. John tracks ahead to pick the blood trail back up. He wades through the thicket, stopping here and there, and inspects for blood. As he pushes through, the brush clears out, and he finds himself in a clearing. His foot steps down onto gravel and dirt, and John stops dead. He looks up and sees something completely out of this world. John, what the Exterior desert, alternate dimension, continuous. The vast desert landscape that sprawls before John is eclipsed by the brilliant starry sky overhead. Unrecognizable planets hang visible and act as a sort of light source that emits a soft glow and bathes the desert floor. John is in utter disbelief as he takes it all in. He turns to see the desert extends behind him as well, and he panics. Whoa, no. He runs back in the direction he came from, but nothing happens. He's stuck in this place, frantic. Standing there, John looks down at the ground and sees blood. A trail leads his line of sight up to a very haggard and menacing-looking black bear with a festering gunshot wound in its side. John, oh shit! Roar! The beast charges. John lifts his rifle and fires, but misses. He panics and runs. The bear snarls at his heels. He chambers another round and haphazardly fires another shot back towards the animal. Missed again. John, fuck! John chambers his last round. He takes one last shot at the beast and nails it. The bear tumbles to the floor as John sprints ahead. He glances over his shoulder when exterior forest evening. John kicks a bush and tumbles to the floor. He scrambles to his feet and notices that he's back in the woods. Confused, his eyes dart to the tree line where the bear just chased him. There's nothing there. John, the fuck was all that? John turns and sees his hunting blind sitting there. Seems aged now. He walks to the blind and looking over his shoulder with every other step. Let me read that again. He walks towards the blind, looking over his shoulder with every other step. Interior hunting blind, continuous. It's empty. Snacks, ice chest, phone, all gone. John, what? I was just here. He exits the blind and looks around. Exterior forest, continuous. He ponders what to do for a beat, then heads off in the opposite direction of where everything just happened. Cut to exterior local bar night. Billy, Rob, and Mallory, John's closest friends, sit at a small table. Beers sit open, but no one drinks. All of them look melancholy. An old-timey tune plays from a jukebox in the corner of the bar. Thud! The front door bursts open, and a disheveled John walks through, rifle in hand. The three look up at the obnoxious patron. Mallory, a late-20s Southern belle, and John's girlfriend, reacts first. Mallory.
John?
She jumps up from the table and rushes to him. Bill and Rob, also late 20s, and a couple of good old boys, follow, equally shocked at the sight of John. Mallory wraps him in a hug, and John seems confused. The old lady behind the bar pipes up.
Hey, I don't allow firearms in my bar, y'all. Take your asses outside.
Well,
So
Do that
read that again.
read it again.
Let me say
You
bartender
were
first.
pretty loud.
Sorry. Yeah, you're gonna have to probably turn that down. All right, ready? Here we go.
The old lady behind the bar pipes up. Bartender.
Sorry, it's a Southern accent. Give me a
It's
second.
funny now.
I'm trying to get into character. Here we go. Hey, I don't allow firearms in my bar. Y'all take your asses outside.
They shuffle out the door to the parking lot. Exterior bar parking lot night. Mallory.
John, where the hell have you been?
John. Huh? I was out trying to fill my bear tag. You all knew this. Speaking of which, I just had the craziest shit happen to me. Mallory.
Are you serious?
The group looks at John with questions burning in their eyes. John. What? Bill and Rob chime in. These are John's closest friends. All right, I doubled up on that. Bill.
Dude, where were you?
Yeah, man, we've been worried sick.
John furrows his brow. Worried sick? I just left a few hours ago.
John, that's not funny.
Not funny? What?
Yeah, dude, you disappeared for a week and then came back out of the blue like nothing's wrong. The fuck?
John is baffled.
We thought you were dead, brother.
This gives John pause. John, dead? Mallory.
It doesn't matter. You're back now.
Mallory wraps him in a hug and doesn't let go. Bill and Rob join in. Confusion smears John's face. Bill.
We need to get you to the hospital, bro. Make sure everything's okay with you. I'll drive him there.
I'll call the sheriff's office and tell him to meet us there.
John becomes more adamant. Guys, I really need to tell...
Go on.
I just realized the writing error. John, guys, I really need to tell you about what happened out there.
Tell us on the way.
They hop into Mallory's truck parked nearby and take off. Cut to interior hospital, patient's quarter, later. John lays in a hospital bed, draped in a gown and hooked up to a heart monitor and IV drip. Mallory sits in a chair across the room with her knees to her chest, staring concernedly at John. Bill and Rob stand next to his bed and share a concerned look between each other. Bill reaches out and squeezes Rob's hand. He turns to look at John. Bill.
Are you sure you're okay, man?
John tosses his arms up in frustration. You guys don't believe me.
You have to see it from our perspective, babe. you show up out of nowhere after a week.
John cuts her off. I told you guys it was only a few hours. Rob.
No, dude. You.
The nurse comes in cutting Rob off. She's accompanied by a sharp-featured man in a dark suit. Nurse.
Okay, everybody. Visiting hours are over and the authorities are here to ask Mr. Baker a few questions.
The suited man casts a predatory eye around the room and gives a curt nod. The gang gets up to leave.
Hold on.
Okay.
You're telling me.
Nero's gonna be Mr. Beaumont.
By the way, I'm being the agent.
Dude, we're recording.
I know. I'll be the agent. There's an agent coming up.
Spoiler alert, here comes an agent.
I can't breathe. Hold on, go back. Where did you start telling me?
Say, okay, do the nurse real quick.
Okay. Jeez. All right. Okay, everybody. Visiting hours are over, and the authorities are here to ask Mr. Baker a few questions.
The suited man casts a predatory eye around the room and gives a curt nod. The gang gets up to leave. Mallory gives John a kiss on the forehead and heads out the door. Rob throws an arm around Bill and they follow her out. The suited man stands squarely in the middle of the room, his figure tall and imposing. John takes stock of his new visitor, Nurse.
Alrighty, Agent Beaumont, he's all yours.
Thank you, ma'am.
Agent Beaumont tips his hat.
It's me, Agent Beaumont.
Agent Beaumont tips his hat to her and flicks a toothpick from one side of his mouth to the other. She leaves the room. He turns to John.
Mr. Baker. It's me, Joe Swanson.
And that's the end of the script.
This podcast is brought to you by Arizona Studios. Arizona Studios, a full-service video content specialist. We're here to illuminate your message and compel your audience to take the right action. For more information, head to our website at arizonastudios.com and be sure to tune in for more content on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.
Cool. Can you, I know it's kind of an abrupt end because obviously it's not done. Can you kind of share with the audience, our listeners, where is this story going?
So, I would like to say, first off...
you know what? Hold on, pause. Did you have a log line for this script in particular?
No.
Okay, cool. I was supposed to ask that earlier, but I forgot.
Oh, I could come up with one next time.
How about right now? Can you come up with one right now?
That's a no.
I'll give you 10 seconds. Here we go.
Oh, Rick!
You're putting more pressure on me. Say it out loud.
I don't know.
You could think of one next time. I mean, you are most likely going to be back to continue the story later, so.
Part 2. It's not done. It's just installments. Also a pilot.
Yeah. I meant to do this.
Exactly.
I'm not busy.
So I'd like to say that there's a line in here where it says, I think it's Rob that says it. Rob's like, tell us, or I'm going to call the sheriff and tell us to meet us at the hospital, right?
Right.
So, honestly, at the end, I wrote this like the day before I turned it in, and I panicked, and I wrote like a different ending to this 6th page that I originally wanted because I didn't want to introduce Agent Beaumont yet. Because Rob was like, I'll call the sheriff, tell him to meet us at the hospital. And so, we get to the hospital. John's trying to convince everybody, we're assuming that he's told them in the truck on the way to the hospital. And now he's like frustrated that nobody's fucking believing him.
You were saying that Rob was supposed to be like, hey, brother, I'm calling the sheriff.
Yeah, so
All right.
It's actually supposed to be the sheriff that shows up. And, everybody gets kicked out of the room. And then the sheriff gets John's whole spiel. Of course, doesn't believe him, thinks he's crazy because he's been missing for a week. So that's how that was supposed to go. And then, after that, what's supposed to happen is he gets released from the hospital. It seems like everything's fine, we're all good to go. And what John ends up doing is taking Mallory to the spot where all this shit happened. And as they're walking through the forest, you know, he's like trying to tell her, it's like, yeah, it's like over here or something like that. Then Mallory goes silent. And what happens is Mallory goes missing. And he comes back without her, right? So
it looks bad.
So it looks bad.
Uh-oh.
And so now he's like prime suspect number 1 in Mallory's disappearance, right? And so after, I don't know, a day or two or however long it takes for cops to arrest you on suspicion of murder or whatever, he gets thrown into a jail. Foul play? Something like that.
Yeah.
He gets thrown into jail, right? And then that's when Agent Beaumont shows up. He's like, hey, you want to get out of here? You know? And he's like, what did you see out there, you know? Because Agent Beaumont's supposed to be like this shady kind of government character.
Clandestine.
Yeah, like he's the only one that believes. He's the only one that believes John.
Mr. Stark would like to see you.
Yeah.
Bear Hunter will return in Avengers.
He gets him out, and John takes him over to where he saw the thing, and then I'm still kind of working out the end. But essentially, because it's a short film, it kind of ends. It's gonna kind of end on a cliffhanger.
Okay.
And what's gonna happen is I had this really cool like shot idea in my head, and it was Agent Beaumont had a device of some kind that could like fucking find where this portal was, and they ended up finding it and, you know, kind of squaring off the area, and then Agent Beaumont turns and fucking shoots John, kills him, right? And then you know, he calls in a bunch of agents and stuff, and like people in white like chemical suits like go into this area, and then we go in, and on the other side we see these agents in the suits in the other side, and we see Mallory's like decomposed body because time is like sped up on the other side. So, you know, because John was only gone momentarily, but when he came back, it was a week later. So, you know, Mallory was gone for a couple days. So when they go back, she's like fucking dead and gone, right? And they end up finding like her skeleton and stuff. And then kind of from there, it was just kind of gonna end. And I had this really cool like aerial shot where they like come up from her body, and they, like the camera's like zooming out as these two agents are like walking around in their suits. And then we kind of like work back into the fucking forest, and it ends. You know, it's a short film, so it's ending on a unfinished story.
I gotcha. Do you remember that one Family Guy bit where they say, "Oh man, it's like an ending to a sad ending to a sci-fi movie"? It's like old sci-fi movies back in the day used to have really fucked up endings.
Yeah.
And Family Guy did a bit on that where this dude, he's running with this chick, and he comes across, you know, they're in the desert, but they come across the city like in a bubble, and all the people in that city look like him. It's like very obscure. Like I think it's based off a real like sci-fi movie. But then the girl that's with him is like, you know what you have to do, and he like shoots himself. And then she like rips her face off, and she's a robot this whole time.
Yeah, I've seen that.
So
I think it's Dune, isn't it?
I don't think it's Dune, but it is like.
But I've seen the episode you're talking about.
This piece just reminds me of like that whole genre of sci-fi where you don't necessarily get a happy ending where things are solved. You just get more questions, and that it is like unfortunate for those characters like John and Mallory that because they stumbled upon this
wrong place at the wrong time.
Wrong place at the wrong time. Unfortunately, that means their life was cut too short. You know, so I think it's bold, if anything.
Yeah, that's kind of like where I got some of the influence too. It's like fucking Twilight Zone and stuff. How you know, you get like weird endings, and you know, they're not always like happy endings or fully answered questions, and I like that. That's like my style. I like to write short films where you're asking in the end like, oh, you know, like what's gonna happen next, or you get a sense of a bigger, you know, story going on here. A lot of people don't like that because they feel unfulfilled, but fuck them. It's my story.
Did you have any like feedback or Josh, if you have any questions for us, like how did we feel about it or anything to kind of
I guess
get a good gauge?
Bill and Rob, I don't know if anybody caught it, but they're a gay couple.
Oh, definitely did not catch that.
You didn't?
Did you?
I didn't. Well, okay, so
yeah.
the three of us, me, Nero, and Alyssa, read it aloud this morning, and so as we were reading it then, I thought I heard something that sounded like...
Sounded
Oh.
gay? What? Like...
well, just something like, wait a minute, did they really do that? Like, it was when he touches the hand, like, grabs his hand.
So like Bill and Rob are standing Bill and Rob are standing next to John's bed, you know, and I think it's Bill reaches out and grabs Rob's hand and he looks at him like concerned, like.
Oh shit, that was subtle.
And then when they turn and walk out the door, Rob throws an arm over his shoulder and they walk out together. Now, you know, it's subtle because I don't want to overdo it because it doesn't really serve the story unless I write it in that serves the story somehow. You know what I mean? Like
It's
being
diversity.
Gay. Diversity is what I try to do, but they're like, you know, they're good old boys. They're not like your typical like flamboyant gay man. They love each other, you know. And they're concerned about their friend John.
Well, and now that because since we were setting up and I was listening at the time, but now reading it, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I could see it.
You can like
I missed it.
I missed it. Like in my head, I was like, I could do it. I mean,
I don't see sexual orientation.
yeah. Well, that's like, I mean, I made it real subtle. I didn't want to like overtly put it in people's faces just because. You know what I mean? Like,
No, I think
diversity for the sake of diversity. I'm like, no, I'm like, it's nice that it's in there, but it's not like,
It's not.
it's not in your face. It's not like, you know, it's like Dumbledore, right? Everybody knows he's gay, but it's never
actually
said in the original movies or the original series.
Yeah.
It's kind of a plot point in the new Fantastic Beasts movie.
Oh yeah,
Movies
definitely
coming
a
out.
plot point for that because it has his lover in there.
Yeah.
You know.
But you know, I don't like it to be like, you know, unless it serves the story. I'm like, what's the point?
Right. Okay.
I think it was
Try to word that without offending people.
Well, unfortunately, like in my case, like where the story is, like it's very kind of cut and dry. Like dude's in the woods, he has an alibi. We understand why he's there. He stumbles across some sort of dimensional void.
Anomaly.
Yeah. And then he comes back and there's like been this time skip. You know, everything's just there in terms of the elements of a story. And unfortunately, since it's cut short, I don't have too much feedback unless you had questions for me, like to kind of like.
What is there anything you felt like was unnecessary for what I do have? So I like to parse it down.
I have one thing, not necessarily on that question, but after a week, like, it just seems like a week is too short of a time frame.
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe for them to be only looking for him for a week, like, maybe it was 2 weeks, maybe it was a month. Like, not to go so far like, I really don't think it really needs to be more than a month, but maybe more than just 1 week.
Well, didn't we kind of like talk about like maybe research needs to be done in terms of when someone is officially a missing person,
Yeah,
when
we
the
did-
police can make that call.
Yeah, we were talking about it earlier of, you know, logically, when
I think
is
it's 48 hours where they're considered missing, and then
How about search time?
I want to say it's a week.
Is
I
it
didn't.
a week?
I didn't like officially research it,
Maybe. Okay.
but my mind went to a week because I was like, well, it's got to be like long enough for them to stop looking, you know, or like right at the end of them stopping looking, and then boom.
When do people stop looking though? I don't know. I don't know that number.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, there's some people who keep searching even after, you know, it's already, like, the police are already done. They're like, oh, there's nowhere we're going to find him. Yeah.
That's not my boy.
Plus, I also was like, I didn't want to like make that distance too long because he'd really only been gone for, you know, a minute maybe.
Right.
Less than a minute.
Yeah.
And you know, a week, like a minute in that place is a week skipped in Earth time. You know, so you can imagine what a few days will give you.
Yeah.
That's why, like when he went in there after the bear, presumably the bear went in there, the wound was all festered. And stuff,
Right.
because it was a fresh wound.
Now it's been
But
a
then it
while.
was a festered wound, you know,
Gross.
assuming it's been a week or two for the bear.
So, I remember Alyssa, since we did read these scripts beforehand, Alyssa did mention that any sort of suspicion could be played with, like especially seeing that Mallory sees John again after an extended period of time. Could there be added bits of drama where it's like, whoa, did you run off? Like, was that something that you could probably...
Like Mallory doesn't fully trust him?
Yeah, maybe you can even add that instead of like, oh, love you, babe, I hope you get, you know,
Yeah.
I hope you get a kill, you know. It's more like, hey, you know, you can play with the story for John to be out there because it's him time. It's his own personal time. And maybe the messages, just to add a little bit of drama, are
Like,
more,
how long are you going to be out there?
Yeah, it's naggy.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, and if you don't want to make it too naggy, you could just say it like,
I miss you. What the
how long do you expect to be out there? When can I expect you home? One of those two things or whatever.
that just adds tension.
Well, yeah, and then when she sees him again, instead of being like, oh my God, I can't believe you're here, like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Maybe
You were gone for
like
a whole
there's
week.
that, but she also has like she's also fighting with, you know.
Yeah.
Like she's
You were out fucking other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, not necessarily that, but you never know, like.
And plus, it adds new opportunities when John is trying to explain what happened and taking Mallory out there, you know, and also suspicions of people thinking that he killed Mallory. That adds to more tension and conflict and.
I like we have to save this podcast for these fucking
Oh
notes.
yeah, and like now the cops have a better reason to like obtain him. It's like, hey, we knew, you know, we had reports that, you know, from your neighbors and friends that you guys weren't ever really getting along. So did you go out there
Like,
and blow
was
the
there-
brains out? You know?
Plot, bro. I like it.
Was
I
there
like
any reason you would want to dispose of your girlfriend? No, not at all, officer. Lies! I see these texts.
Then Agent Beaumont could just write it off as like, those two lovers either off themselves or they ran off or something for Agent.
Or he killed her and couldn't deal with it and
Yeah.
went out and killed himself.
So it's a cover story. It's a big conspiracy that
I like
you can
it.
kind of.
I like it. I'm going to have to put your fucking name in the credits. God damn it.
My dad's calling.
Answer it.
My wife is calling.
Oh, really?
She thinks I'm out there getting them bears. I'm trying to fill my bear tags, Claire. God damn it, woman.
You know I was out here.
Leave me alone. This is my Friday.
Oh gosh. Yeah. So I think that's a good addition. Like good things to think on. I mean, other than that, unless someone says something else, I'm kind of like.
I like that note.
No, I mean, yeah, it's like what you said. It's kind of hard to really give too much.
On an unfinished script.
But I like where it's
Conflict.
going.
Gives it character.
I like where it's going, and I want to know more. I want to know what this other dimension is.
That was another kind of goal of mine was kind of to counter what you just said. Was I didn't want the weird dimensional thing to be like the main
thing.
conflict in this. It's
Well,
it's a catalyst.
It's a catalyst, exactly.
It doesn't have to be. Like, you can keep it the way that you have it, of just a very, okay, you show it, that's what it looks like, this is what happens in
It's
it.
the reason like all this other shit has gone down.
Yeah.
All this other drama has sparked between John and Mallory. I like that. See? You guys are smarter
That's
than me.
what happens when you read scripts with other people.
It's
Like,
true.
by yourself, you're just like
Oh, this is so good.
I love it. It's perfect the way it is. Okay, so kind of finishing everything off. Oh, Jesus. Is there anything that you would like to add or any sort of... Is someone here?
I think it's you kicking this.
No, dude.
It's a ghost.
It's like, hello?
It's gonna turn into a ghost.
Hello?
Anyway.
Spirits? I keep hearing, I think it's like the spirit of Alyssa, because I keep hearing her coughing.
Oh my god.
It's like, that's scary. Anyway.
There's nobody in the studio yet. We're hearing shit.
Yeah, yeah.
This
Oh
won't
my
be
God.
like the first time, though. Like, Alyssa was here by herself this one time, and she kept hearing things. It was
We
like,
made that
You
movie.
know-
We made Alyssa's movie in here, and now we got a fucking monster over
I know,
on the
right?
green
Yeah, we
screen.
actually like
Alright.
had something coming.
Opened up a monster portal.
all right, hey, Alyssa, the studio's haunted. I'm hearing your disembodied cough.
Coughing.
Okay, I keep hearing, it's so cold. It's so cold. I can't get warm. Anyway, cool. Is there anything else you want to plug or add or anything?
I don't have a YouTube channel. I barely am on Twitter, and anything I post on Twitter is from my Instagram.
What's your Instagram?
It's Josh R WMS87, and that's it. That's my name.
Okay.
Handle on Instagram.
That's my handle on Instagram.
Cool, cool. So
You
see,
follow me if you want. It's not very interesting.
Cool behind the scenes stuff of Josh's job.
I do post a lot of
I see that a lot.
filmmaking stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Josh Williams, local filmmaker
Extraordinary.
extraordinaire.
Don't
Let's
forget
see,
it.
There's one thing I have to kind of end with. Do you want to? I think it's. The feedback bit.
yeah.
So the closing feedback. So hey, listeners, if you're still out there, still listening, we would love to hear your feedback. If you want to comment or give us feedback via email or anything about Josh's script or even new script on the blog, if you're interested in participating in some way or form or shape, you can email us at info@arizonastudios.com or kind of comment on our podcast, or how do I read that out? So like our Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, you can comment there. Just engage with us.
Please.
Just do it.
Please.
Ooh,
We need more
Any-
engagement.
Any one of our social medias, just make sure that you say I'm having feedback, or I'm giving feedback for the podcast New Scripts on the Block. Sorry.
I think
New
Josh's
script.
script is really cool, and I can't wait to see what he comes out with on the next episode.
That would be a great
On the next
comment.
installment of Josh's episode.
Yeah,
There you
any
go.
questions to Josh is
I'm gonna go home and finish this script.
all right. Will Josh finish his script? Tune in next time
Yeah.
on New Script on the Block.
Tune
All right.
JRZZY 8844.4. All right. Sorry, this is a weird episode because we love each other very much, I guess. Or
We have fun.
when it's the three of us, we get weird, right?
It's hard to not laugh.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Good chemistry here. I like it.
Thank you, Josh Williams, for putting your script on the block, the new script on the block.
Chopping block.
Because this is just a film theory. This is just a theory.
Film.
This is just a script on the block.
Oh
The new script on the block.
You're really.
A film theory.
It's the first few episodes. We don't got it down yet.
That's true. Matt Pat, please don't sue us for using your film theory
I
thing.
love you. All right.
Okay.
Cool. And thank you, everybody. Good night.
Good night.